So today, lads, we're going to be talking about Sydney Colson, and she went on to Aaliyah Boston's podcast yesterday and talked about the kind of negativity that she received from being a part of the Indiana Fever. And we all kind of know that that's something that is happening.
Sydney Colson recently made a revelation that validates everyone's suspicions on the Indiana Fever. She said on Aaliyah Boston's show that she received more hostility after joining the Fever than she had ever encountered in her professional life. Her signing with Indiana was the only reason why people turned against her. Even a seasoned player who has always been well-liked around the league was taken aback by the extreme criticism WNBA players that decide to play for the Indiana Fever have to deal with hatred.
Whether I'm playing, we want things to look like what we want them to look like. And I knew coming into this season, once people started talking, once I was here and experiencing it, like, people had a lot to say. There was a lot of negativity.
When Sydney Colson appeared on Aaliyah Boston's podcast, he revealed some shocking facts that the WNBA most likely wished had remained confidential. Colson didn't sugarcoat the criticism she faced after joining the Indiana Fever. She spoke candidly about it. She acknowledged that, for the first time in her career, she was actively despised by others, and that this was solely because she joined the Fever organization. That's an outrageous statement that validates the struggles Fever players have faced during the season, which the majority haven't been willing to publicly discuss. Colson clarified that although she was aware that joining the Fever could draw some notice, she wasn't ready for the degree of animosity she really encountered. People have generally appreciated her throughout her career, she said. She is well known for being affable and humorous. Even if some people didn't think her humor was hilarious, it wasn't because they didn't like it. Rather, it was just a difference in taste. However, all of that was drastically altered by joining the Fever. She was now receiving waves of criticism from people who had never previously had an issue with her.
And I just looked at it like, I'm not used to this. Typically, I'm the person that people are just like, oh, we love Sid, that's funny, blah, blah, blah. Some people be like, not funny, and I'm like, they don't have a sense of humor. But like, for the most part, for the most part, people have liked me and have admired me from the outside. But that's never made me do the things I do. Like, I do the things that I do because I enjoy my teammates, because I like comedy, because I like whatever I'm doing, not for other people's approval. So once I got here and was experiencing people's disapproval, it didn't really faze me because I still understood. I think I understood even more so.
Colson is a seasoned player with years of experience in the league, which is why her remarks are so important. She has participated in games for several teams. She has encountered a variety of circumstances in locker rooms. She's not a young athlete who doesn't understand what normal looks like. T is therefore credible when she claims that the hatred she encountered after joining the Fever was unprecedented. She has a point of comparison and the way that fans and other players reacted to her. Signing makes the Fever condition particularly poisonous. Colson clarified that she did nothing wrong to deserve the criticism. Her connection to the disease was the only reason why people detested her. That's the main idea. She remained the same person. She didn't suddenly lose her charm or humor. She didn't do anything problematic or contentious. Her single transgression was entering into a deal with Indiana, which was sufficient to cause everyone to entirely turn against her. That shows how deeply some WNBA fans and possibly other players despise the Fever.
Not liking you for no reason, I'm probably exactly where I need to be. So once the injury happened, I'm like, once again, this is something that I don't fully get, but this must be where I need to be, sidelined. And it made me an even more vocal leader. It made me pay attention to things maybe that I wasn't paying attention to that other people had going on, so I could be more tapped into if they're having a hard time and I need to come over here and help them out, whether it's mental, physical, whatever. I had to get outside of me. And that was the lesson that I learned in this. I hope it's the one that God wanted me to learn, but yeah, it was just one of those things that nobody wants that to happen, but you still have to move forward and figure out a way to still be, of service to you.
The intriguing aspect is Colson's reaction to and processing of that hatred. She claimed that when she realized that others were criticizing her without cause, it really reassured her that she was in the right place. It's frequently an indication that you're doing something correctly or that you're in a position that puts those who don't want you there in danger when people despise you without reason. When the hostility is obviously illogical and unwarranted. Colson seems to realize that she was Not the target of the hatred. It was about the significance of the Fever and how the team's accomplishments jeopardize the status quo that certain people are committed to upholding.
All know that that's something that's happening with all these players. Is like they're just not in any way happy as long as they have to publicly hate the Fever. And you know, the only way you can get back into these people's good graces is by pulling a Dawana Bonner. By just not playing for the Fever anymore, it doesn't matter. You have to pull a Dawana.
Colson also disclosed her sincere desire to play for the Fever. She didn't sign this out of reluctance or as a last choice because she couldn't get a better deal. In particular, she desired to be in Indiana. She was fond of Kelsey Mitchell and likely discussed the team culture with her. She realized that she and Caitlin Clark would likely get along because they are similar individuals. She thought her personality and playing style would work well with the Fever. This adds to the ridiculousness of the hate she was subjected to. People penalized her for choosing Indiana because she wanted to be there. Colson's experience was further complicated by the fact that she had to deal with an injury during the season. She had to miss a lot of time due to a meniscus tear. In any case, it is annoying to be ignored when you have recently joined a new team and are attempting to establish yourself. However, managing it in addition to being inundated with unwarranted animosity from supporters and potentially covert animosity from players on opposing teams makes it much more difficult. Colson claimed that the injury made her an even more outspoken leader and made her more aware of her teammates' struggles in order to provide them with stronger support. Colson acknowledged that her own teammates were also coping with hostility and hardships that might not have been apparent from the outside, which is why her message about helping teammates is telling. She presented herself as someone who could support her teammates emotionally and psychologically during trying times. That's what a seasoned leader does, and the Fever needed it. However, it also shows that Colson wasn't the only person impacted by the toxins aimed at the Fever. Numerous players on the team were impacted, and they required assistance to cope with the unfair animosity directed at them. It's encouraging that Colson is prepared to publicly state that she was despised by others for no apparent reason. The majority of players avoid that fact. Some negativity will be acknowledged, but it will be minimized or explained away. Colson just explained it. She simply joined the Fever, which is why everybody detested her. There was no other explanation. This candor is crucial because it confirms what supporters of the Fever have been saying throughout the season. The way supporters and players with Fever are treated is abnormal. It's not your typical rivalry or competition in sports. It's more intimate and ugly. Particularly intriguing is the analogy to Dana Bonner that is brought up in conversations about this. The hatred aimed toward her abruptly vanished when Bonner left the Fever. Since she was no longer connected to Indiana, she was welcomed back into the good graces of the larger WNBA community. This pattern shows that the hate isn't really directed at certain players or their actions. It concerns the Fever organization in general and Caitlin Clark in particular. When a player joins the Fever, that affiliation taints them and exposes them to hate that is unrelated to them personally. For Fever players, this puts them in an impossible scenario. They are unable to prevail. They are accused of taking advantage of favorable treatment or riding Clark's coattails if they succeed on the court. If they struggle, they are made fun of for being liabilities who hinder the squad or for not being able to keep up with Clark. They are accused of being phony or attempting to capitalize on Clark's fame if they support her or say good things about the team culture. They are accused of being envious or failing to support their colleague if they remain silent. There's no answer that will please the haters because their hatred is illogical in the first place. Colson's remarks also demonstrate how the Fever have developed into the most divisive team in WNBA history. They receive more hate and love at the same time than any other team. Major market teams in other sports function similarly. You will be adored by your supporters and hated by everyone else if you play for the Lakers, Yankees, or Cowboys. The scrutiny and attention are intensified. Every error is magnified, and every accomplishment is discounted or attributed to advantages rather than talent. Being on a team that matters more than others is like that. The distinction is that in those other leagues, joining the divisive club is typically a decision that requires knowledge of what you're committing to. The players understand what it means to be a Yankee or Laker. They are aware of the attention and strain that accompany it. Players on the Fever in 2024 and 2025 may not have known what they were getting into due of the unparalleled amount of attention and animosity the team faces in WNBA history. In ways that could not have been entirely predicted, Clark's entrance completely altered what it meant to play for Indiana. Colson's remarks highlight a poisonous aspect of WNBA fan culture that is extremely detrimental to the league's expansion. Leadership must address the issue when players are unable to sign with specific teams without experiencing hostility and hatred for no justifiable reason. The WNBA ought to be happy that one of its teams has grown to be so well-liked and significant that it attracts media attention. Rather than supporting a well-liked team and player, some fans seem to desire that the league remain tiny and unique. It is especially upsetting for Colson to discover additional derogatory remarks and insults aimed at her for contracting the fever. The hatred goes beyond disagreement or criticism of her choices or style of play. It's insults and personal assaults that blatantly transgress accepted speech boundaries. People are discouraged from participating in the sport by that kind of toxicity. Instead of being vibrant and inclusive, it makes the WNBA appear petty and unwelcoming. The fact that their players are being treated in this manner should disgrace league executives, but there hasn't been much of an attempt to address or call it out. Another illustration of how illogical the anti-Fever feeling has gotten is the remark that Lexi Hull is also receiving hate. Hull is a diligent worker who performs her duties as a role player. She doesn't use foul language or stir up controversy. But just by being on the roster and having a close friendship with Clark, she receives vitriol. That is ridiculous. Because they play with a star, role players on well-known teams shouldn't be harassed. However, in the current WNBA atmosphere, being associated with the Fever and Clark in particular makes you a target. Colson's statement that she does what she does because she enjoys her teammates rather than for the approval of others is a good way to deal with unreasonable hatred. People who despise you without cause cannot control your decisions or make you unhappy. Colson is aware that the hatred speaks less about her and more about the people who are directing it. She is confident enough in herself to acknowledge that and not allow it to affect how she plays her part in the squad. In the same circumstance, younger players could find it difficult to exhibit such emotional maturity. Based on how the season unfolded, it is true that teams did not respect the Fever and paid for it.